out there, survivors, how are you all doing? And welcome back for another episode of The Hidden Gems. This is, as you might know already, but in case you're here for the first time, a segment on the channel where I talk to people about games from the past. It doesn't have to be the distant past, but it usually is, that they love, and kind of maybe those games aren't as recognized or as fondly remembered these days. So today I'm very ecstatic to be chatting to not just a fellow content creator, not just a friend, not just, there's so many different handles for this human being, but the thing is, he's also a gigantic game nerd, which is something we bonded over, and that is Brian O Regan, also known here on YouTube as Brian's Action Figure Reviews. Brian, how you doing?
I'm not so bad, Paddy. How are you today?
I'm good. As I said to you off mic, I'm alive, and that is in the age of 2020 and 2021 a plus.
Definitely a plus.
But no, I'm good, man. I'm good. I was talking to you offline. I'm happy to live in an age where Resident Evil Village exists as a thing, and that's all I needed out of 2021, being honest. So yeah, we've hit peak 2021 now. It's fine. Oh no, I shouldn't say that. That's like saying that was definitely,
never say that.
That was definitely the boss's final form. No, it wasn't.
That's bad as saying I'll be right back.
Or watching a soccer match and be like, oh, they've won. They're away with it. No, the cool thing about today's episode, folks, is that normally for all these Hidden Gem episodes so far, I know in advance the game that the person is going to be picking. And usually it's a game that I know, or in the odd instance, it's something that I don't know. What's cool about today's episode is me and Brian talked a couple of months back about this, and I purposely didn't go back and look through what we talked about, because I was like, it could be interesting to find out firsthand on this episode what game he's picked. So you'll know by the title of this episode, but for me, this will be the first time I hear what we're talking about. So Brian, with that, let us know what the game that we're going to be talking about today.
So there was a few that I looked, and I'll tell you later the other ones that I had thought about. But I just keep going back to Tenchu Stealth Assassins as my game.
Yes, it's so funny because we were joking in a group chat earlier, and I would cough Tenchu, and I couldn't even remember if that. I had a feeling, because I know you love ninja stuff too. I was like, I had a feeling that was one you might have brought up, but I wasn't 100%. And I was like, I'm joking, by the way, pick whatever game you want. But I'm so happy because, yeah, this is a game I've played. This is a game I have a history with and that I'm fond of as well. So I'm very excited to get into this. So the kind of first question I have about it is what I ask most people, which is can you tell us a bit about the game, a basic overview of what it is, that kind of stuff?
Well, it's Tenchu Stealth Assassins. Clue's kind of in the title, but you'll be shocked. Well, you do know this. It came out before Metal Gear Solid, so it was the first time I had played a stealth game, and as you said, I love ninja stuff. I grew up with my dad, who used to rent out those crappy American ninja movies that were out in the 80s, and I was always yeah, no, it was even worse than that. It was lower budget, and I think there was about 5 of them, and I was always like, oh, can't wait for the ninja to kill the dude, and then he would just kill them all. By the end, and there was Shinobi, Ninja Gaiden, all that kind of stuff, and it was very, how would I put it, fantastical and unrealistic. But then I got my PlayStation. I think I got Bushido Blade as well, which was wholly realistic, where you cut a guy once, he dies. I was like, what? And this doesn't happen in video games. From playing Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or whatever, and then I saw Tenchu, I think, was it game in Cruiser Street? I saw it, and it was €35 or something like that. And I was like, oh, this looks cool, another ninja game. And when I went home, I literally closed the curtains, turned on the first level, and it was what the fuck? You can go up on the roof, and you just little meter at the bottom corner, which I think was the first time that was used as well. Whereas if it went up,
it's one of the first memories I have of a stealth meter, letting people know. Also, just to join in, wasn't it also incredibly gory, if I remember correctly?
Yes. You sneak up on a guy, you cut his throat, and it goes, pukes blood from everywhere. It was like an anime or something.
Yeah, because I don't know if you'll probably get this as well as a child of the Bravo era. But like at this time, I remember like I was watching a lot of like anime stuff on Bravo and that, and like Ninja Scroll was just like Tenchu felt like the unofficial video game adaptation of Ninja Scroll. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you're spot on. Like this, I think I have a very similar origin story with this because I think I also bought it in game. I think actually this is one of a handful of games that I was about 14 or 15 at the time. And this game was 18s. And I remember the guy being like, "Nah, I can't sell this. I had to go back up onto like William Street and get my mum to walk down with me to buy it for me." And it was mortifying. The other game was Soul Reaver. But yeah, I know. I also know you have a massive fondness for that game. But yeah, like me and my friend, we would go on to become completely obsessed with the stealth genre. Like, you know, when Metal Gear Solid came out and it all really blew up. And then Splinter Cell and Hitman, but like you say, I think a lot of people don't realize that Tenchu was kind of there. Wasn't by a long shot, if I remember. It was like maybe a 6-month window that it came out before Metal Gear, but it was enough that it was like, it is the first game that I definitely remember that had the stealth meter. So I think you're spot on with that. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'd love to even kind of delve into it a little bit more, which is like, can you tell us a little bit more about your connection to the game? Like, we have your origins of like how you got it and everything, but like, then just tell us a little bit about where that journey took you with Tenchu.
Like, I don't know. I played it. I get very impatient very quickly with games, so I will. Like, there could be an amazing. Like, it took me 2 years to finish Days Gone because I gave up after a while, and I eventually went back to it. But when I got Tenchu, I played it probably non-stop because it was so grown up. Like, it was 18s, obviously, you said, and I was the same age as you, 14, 15. So when you get to the boss in like the first level, and he's basically interfering with some Japanese young one.
It's true. It's all true.
And you're like, what the fuck is going on here? And he's like,
I didn't know this was Urutsuka Doji.
Yeah.
Are we still on Bravo?
And like the further you went, the worse it got, kind of. But as well as that, the two lead characters, I thought Rikimaru was cool as fuck.
Yeah.
He'd like the blade, the cut down over his eye. He looked like a proper ninja-san.
And like, he's one of the earliest, again, going back to another thing that became common in games, he's one of the earlier characters I can think of that had that white hair. That became really prevalent throughout the PS1, PS2 era. Like, when you look at Sephiroth and Dante and like all those characters, like Rikimaru, when I think about it, is kind of the first character I remember in a video game that had that, like, oh, he's got like, it's not gray, it's not whatever, it's like silver white. Yeah, he was a badass character design, which one thing I'll chime in with here as well is that I remember that there's a PS2 Tenchu as well. I think, is it Wrath of Heaven?
Wrath of Heaven, yeah.
And like, that was like an evolution of this one, but it was cool when that one get to see him in kind of like those better graphics and stuff, and you're like, oh, it's Rikimaru and he looks badass. But I think oh, go ahead.
But like, it wasn't just Rikimaru, there was Ayame as well. You actually had a choice of a fella or a girl, which again was rare back then.
Yep.
Whereas now everybody does it, or everybody has a female male character or whatever. Yeah. It was unheard of back then.
It really was. Like, I mean, unless you were playing something like Streets of Rage, where there was like 3 characters, 2 of them were dudes and 1 was a girl. It was like, in most, especially in a big 3D adventure game, because like, even assets wise, it was hard for them back then to justify putting in a whole different character. So if you did get 2 characters, that was crazy impressive.
And it wasn't the stereotypical no clothes, big tits, etc. She was actually a little girl, like, more or less. Yeah. She was a teenager, and she was just as vicious as Rikimaru, which was, well, as vicious as you played her, basically.
And again, it was kind of dark to see this like teenage girl just like literally fucking gutting fellas, like, and just disemboweling them, like.
So was it? I think Rikimaru's finisher was like cut their throat, whereas she had 2 daggers and she like literally spun around and cut off his stomach open or something. It was crazy, like.
It was, and like, it's funny because I can kind of sense in this a little bit that, like, I know that I think we definitely shared similarities in our gaming history. I think we even both started out Sega Mega Drive gamers and stuff like that. And I think I love that, like, I think the reason I was drawn to games like this and, you know, stuff is because of Mortal Kombat, which I know you're a die-hard fan of. Like, I know you absolutely love Mortal Kombat. I can literally see Motaro up there on your shelf behind you looking down at me. But yeah, like, so
Cameras.
this kind of felt like, in a lot of ways, I mean, I'm not going to say there wasn't gory 3D games, but it definitely felt like, I mean, we were getting into that era, especially with PlayStation, where PlayStation felt like the first console that was like starting to go, hey, we respect you enough to like, that it's not going to be all sunshine, lollipops and rainbows. We're going to go to some dark fucking areas here. And Tenchu was in that first wave, I think.
You had Resident Evil and you had Silent Hill as well along the same lines, which is, I know you're a massive fan of those.
Yeah. And then like, but it's funny because even Metal Gear Solid, when you look at it, is so tame by comparison. Like, I know that it was a lot more, Metal Gear Solid was more adult in terms of its story being crazy.
Philosophical. I can never say that word. Philosophical.
Yeah, the philosophical.
Philosophical. There we go.
What's it? But yeah, like Tenchu, and it's funny because we can actually tie this, I think, in a little way back to even modern games. Like, I don't think we'd see even games like Ghost of Tsushima without that originator of like these kind of. I mean, obviously we got I know there was the old Ninja Gaidens, but then we got the more modern Ninja Gaidens in the 2000s as well. But like, I think Tenchu really showed, especially, it's funny because we do talk about games on these series that like are not fondly remembered or are not even just not talked about as much. But I know that at the time Tenchu was a massive financial success for Sony, and it's just, I think it feels like it's one of those franchises that people like me and you, and there's probably others like us out there that are like, bring Tenchu back, we want a new one.
Like, I think the reason I picked it was it kind of, the first two games and maybe Wrath of Heaven as well did really well, and it kind of faded massively after that. As I think there was Nintendo DS versions and everything.
Yeah.
And they were awful.
Exactly. It was like you're sending it out to die. It's old yeller and you're taking it out the back and shooting it. Like.
Yeah, like the fans don't even consider it canon, which obviously I wouldn't either.
Yeah. And it feels like in a post Ghost of Tsushima age, it's like, God, imagine a Tenchu game that looks like Ghost of Tsushima. Oh my God.
Sekiro.
I am too. See, here's the thing. I was able to play Tenchu. I don't know if I'd be able to play Sekiro. Although I tried
it.
I say that, and then I bet if I went back and played Tenchu, it's probably harder than anything that exists.
It's probably harder, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have it for my PS Classic or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just unplayable because your hands are used to analog sticks
Dual
now
six.
And actual 3D worlds. You're like, I don't know what way. It feels like driving a tractor in a ocean or something. I don't know.
That's the best metaphor I've heard. Because I find that even when I went back and played, I was playing Metal Gear Solid on an emulator, and it didn't have it was the original PSX release. It didn't have DualShock controls, and trying to control it with the D-pad and trying to control, I was like, I can't. First person view and trying to look around, I was like, this is impossible.
It's just your brain is wired differently now, yeah.
Exactly. I had to get the PC release of Metal Gear Solid just so I could actually use my controller the way I know how to use it now. But okay, yeah, this is a good question that I love to ask actually, which is like, in your mind with this game, what are some of the unique kind of things that it does that you feel it did better than any other kind of game in its genre?
I think the realism mainly, because it all kind of aligns into the stealth part. Whereas in other games, you can be a damage sponge, you can be a bullet sponge. Whereas if you're flying around the rooftops as well. I think every single level was like a mini open world as well.
Yeah.
Back for its time to go anywhere, do anything in whatever order you wanted, as long as you weren't seen. But as soon as you went head on with some of the soldiers there, you either had to be really, really good or really, really lucky to kill them and lucky to escape. It was really difficult if you tried to play it, balls to the wall. Come on, that kind of way. You actually had to use stealth or you would die.
Yeah, as you say, the clue was definitely in the title. Like, it's telling you, it's like stealth assassins. Okay, this is what you gotta do. Because like that, I remember that like in almost every other stealth game I can think of, you hit those points where it's like, well, I'm caught, time to murder everyone.
Yeah.
With this, you couldn't do that. You were caught, and within about 30 seconds, you're dead.
Like you could escape. You could use the grappling hook to escape, but in later levels, they had arrows and shit as well, and there was just no escape. And that as well, that was cool as well. When you actually got hit with arrows, they stayed there as you were running around, which was crazy as well at the time, because the realism, the detail was class even for PlayStation 1. Like,
yeah, it's crazy because, again, I always talk about the PS1 era with this real fun nostalgia, and I think it's because I feel like in a lot of ways it was one of the last super adventurous times in terms of gaming, like where stuff was really being discovered and figured out. And like, I feel like every generation since, there's been innovation, but it's been way smaller. Like, it hasn't been these big leaps.
Yeah, whereas now you're getting, it was 1080, now it's 4K. It still looks like I've got glasses, it still looks the same to me.
Yeah.
You can see the pixels in the water. That's great.
Or like, we both got PS5s, and like the biggest thing ever that I was just like, oh yes, is like load times are shorter. Yes.
Yeah, that was the main thing.
Like, that'll show you. Whereas at this time it was like, I remember, like, I'll use Resident Evil as my example because it's the one I jumped to like always. I remember playing Sonic and Knuckles at home, and then I went to my friend Ian's house and he had Resident Evil. And I just remember being like, it was like getting hit by a fucking truck, man. It was like, this is not the same. Like, that experience and this experience are very different.
Totally different.
Whereas now, yeah, it's like if you played Days Gone and then you played Gears of War 5, there's not really any, like, in terms of visuals and all the rest of it, it's like, yeah, this looks a little bit nicer or whatever, but it's basically the same.
Not much in it, like.
But yeah, so I agree with you though. I think that you're spot on. One of the things that this did better, I would agree with you on that, is it made stealth the focal point. It didn't. I think Hitman started to do that successfully a couple of years later as well. Was that idea that, if you get caught, it's not that you're totally screwed, but it's going to be a lot harder for you now. Like,
yeah.
Whereas I think Metal Gear and Splinter Cell, there was a lot of forgiveness in, like, you're getting caught.
Splinter Cell was tough as fuck.
See, this is, I'm telling you, fucking nostalgia glasses, man. I think it's because Blacklist was the last one I played, and that was basically just like Gears of War.
Yeah. The first one was horrific.
Like, yeah, I guess, as I say, in my head, I'm like, no, you just riddle them and you'll be fine.
Stick your head out, you're dead. Basically.
But yeah, like, as I say, I think you're right though that this game's stealth was like such a big part. Even like, but also one thing actually to jump off that as well, because this is something I played, I can jump into this a little bit. Like, you had all those different items. You had caltrops, which I didn't even know what caltrops were before I played Tenchu.
They were like the thing you use for cars, but for people.
Yeah. You had those, as you say, you had the grappling hook, you had smoke bombs, you had kunai knives, you had all these things. And even that was like, as you say, right, at a time before open worlds and stuff, to be able to be up on like a little pagoda building, looking down, being like, okay, if I hop down there and I drop some caltrops and lure him this way, and then like you could actually strategize and plan it out, which
they were like it made a puzzle of your brain, you know, of killing someone. And also on the inventory thing, you could only carry a certain amount.
Oh yeah.
You could only carry, like, I think it was 5. And that was it. Whereas other games, have what you want and use it however you want. Like,
yeah, as you say, it became kind of like, and you'd even have to kind of come up with different loadouts or figure out what you needed and stuff. You couldn't just kind of be like, we'll figure it out on the fly. It was like, no, this is, it's strategy. There's actually strategy involved to this.
I think there was like a grenade as well, wasn't there? There
was like a bomb thing, yeah.
And you literally had one, and if you set it off, everyone was coming for you.
It was your like last ditch desperate attempt. It was your self-destruct button, like.
Catch! I'm out of here.
Oh man. So then, like, another question that I like to ask people about these type of games is like, it's 2021. The person out there watching this, you know, has never played this. Maybe they've never even played a PS1 game. Why should they play Tenchu? Like, why is that the game that they should play?
Oh. Because it's not as hard as Sekiro.
That's the best answer I've ever gotten.
I've actually, I think the publishing rights for Tenchu actually are with From Software.
Oh, really?
And they originally were making Sekiro as the successor, from what I know, from what I heard.
Yeah.
Could be wrong now, but I bought it anyway. I bought it, and I don't do Dark Souls.
You were like, this is not my Tenchu.
But like it is, but like, how do I put this? When you're fighting the regular goons, we'll say, it's very Tenchu.
Yeah.
And then you come up against this guy about 100 feet high, you're like, little sword to fight him. You're like, what the fuck am I meant to do this? And right? You spend 2 hours and you finally do that, and you walk about 600 yards up to the next area, and there's a fucking another one.
Oh God,
For fuck's sake, like,
as you say, it's
there's
those
no enjoyment out of it.
those Soulsborne games. They are, and I've heard that Sekiro is the hardest of the Soulsborne games. Like, it's harder than any Dark Souls, harder
And
than
apparently
Bloodborne.
I got halfway through it.
Which is more than I got in a lot of Soulsborne games. But I mean, to kind of jump in a little bit on my end, I would say that if there's people out there that are diehard stealth fans and stuff, and are like, they love Hitman and they love all that kind of stuff, or even somebody who loves something, even though it's not stealth based, well, I suppose it can be, like something like Ghost of Tsushima, I would say that like Tenchu, yes, it's going to be hard to play, it's going to be awkward. Play it on emulator, map your controls whatever way you feel comfortable with. But like, try and like, this is, as much as people call Metal Gear Solid one of the big originators of the stealth genre, as you said in this, the reason to play this in my eyes is that this is definitely, in a lot of ways, the actual like start of that. Even though there was the old Metal Gears on like MSX and stuff,
Yeah.
they weren't really well known. They didn't even get released in the West, I don't believe, a lot of them. So like, this was the game that I remember playing that I was like, oh, this can be its own thing. Like, you know, avoiding enemies, something I've never had to do in a video game before. And like that, it's just everything you said. I think, you know, the character designs, the story is actually really good. You know, like you're kind of the Emperor's right hand or something, effectively. Like
he's a mercenary. They're kind of both mercenaries, aren't they? I am, and Kamaru. But
like, you kind of get pulled into this big political intrigue plot, and like it's again, for the time that it was put out in, it's really good. Like, I would even go so far as to say that, and this is something that I'm sure you'll probably echo, but like, if you tried Tenchu and you were like, this is too old-fashioned for me, I can't get a grip on it, give Wrath of Heaven a try if you can.
Yeah, go on PS2, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Give that a try, because it is just that little bit more polished, that little bit more kind of modern, and it's
a lot easier too.
It is way easier, and it almost, I could be wrong in this, but in my head I remember that when I first played Wrath of Heaven and the first level started, I was like, is this a remake of the first game? Because this like feels like the same level. Like this,
yeah.
It almost felt like a remake more than a sequel. Like, that'd be my 2 cents on the why you should play it. Is just like, it's one of the Mac Daddies of the stealth genre. Like,
I remember a crazy ad that was on TV as well, that it was so like stereotypical. It actually used to be on the RTE channels. Remember Sony used to advertise
heavily. Ireland was one of their biggest markets.
And there was like, it would show, it was like an FMV of Rick Amaru, and then at the end, some like guy doing a terrible Japanese accent would go like, Tenchu, stealth assassins!
Oh
out,
God!
out.
I remember this ad. Until you did that, I didn't. And then as soon as I heard you do the voice, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh God!
I was just thinking about it a while ago, and I was, oh my God, I'm going looking that up on YouTube.
As you say, like, PlayStation marketing was all like, Ireland was. I remember looking into it years later, and we were, per head of population, we were like the biggest in Europe, PlayStation owners. This tiny little island off in the west. But we just loved PlayStation. We loved Wipeout, and we loved Tekken, and we loved Tenchu Stealth Assassins, apparently.
Yeah.
The next question there, which is one like to try and help people who do want to play it, is kind of, how can I play it? How could somebody who wanted to play Tenchu play it? And you gave one example there earlier, actually, which is
I emulated it on my PS Classic.
Yeah.
So it's easy enough to do.
I always say this about emulation when we talk about this, because people get very sensitive around emulation. And the thing I always say is that there's 2 ways to look at it. One is that when something has been out this long, and you're only buying secondhand gouged copies off people on eBay.
Yeah.
The devs are never seeing a penny. It's effectively abandonware at this point. So like, the fact that you're going out and playing it is about the best you can do. Like, you know, I would always encourage people that I'm like, if it's not being gouged on like eBay or something, buy a copy to have so that it will protect you if anybody did ever. I do that all the time in my streams. I love it. People are like, "Oh, I see you play. I see you're playing that game. Like, does it feel good to be stealing it?" And I just reach to my shelf and pull down whatever I'm playing. I'm like, "Oh, excuse me, excuse me."
I paid full price for all the Tenchu games when they came out first release anyway, so fuck them.
Exactly, yeah. And as I say, no one at From Software is going to get your pennies now. But
not anymore.
I think one of the other ways you might be able to play it, I might have to look this up after this, but possibly, I don't know if it's on like the PlayStation Store as a PS1 game on, you know, the digital PS3.
Vita, maybe.
Yeah, PS3 and Vita had those like PS1 classics. It could be on there. If it is, I'll put a link in the description or I'll make note of it or whatever, because some people, I mean, me for example, I still have my PS3 knocking about that like I do play my older like PS1 games on and stuff.
Awesome.
But yeah, that is another way. But and then the final way, I guess, is just straight up good old fashioned emulation on your PC. Just get whatever program and play it and enjoy it and person it.
Google is your friend.
And yeah, just cry for hours at how difficult this game actually is.
It's not that difficult. He's just Japanese Batman.
Wait, were both his parents killed in an alley?
Could be.
Probably.
That's why he kills people now.
We'll go with the scar being from that, yeah.
You know how I got these scars?
Oh, wait, he's Japanese Joker. No, I am Brian. First of all, I want to say like thank you for coming on and talking about this, because I love. It's always cool. I love this show. I love finding discoveries. It's always cool, but I love when I get to relive like a game that I also have a big connection to, or you know. And the fact that, as I say, I was spoofing earlier when I said like Tenchu, cough cough, but then when this came up, I was like so happy. I was like, yes. But before I kind of start rounding this out into stuff, you said you had some other choices, so I'd be curious to hear kind of what made the short list. I
mentioned Bushido Blade already, so I won't go on about that. I have 3 others. I had Enslaved Odyssey to the West from Xbox 360. I picked that up for a $5 in Extravision in the Parkway and thought, probably not thing to throw on the fucking shelf, but I ended up playing every second of it and absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's a great game.
I think it was Ninja Theory and Andy Serkis played the main guy, Monkey.
Yeah, he was in all. There's like he was the king in Heavenly Sword. Then he was in that. Then he was just kind of Ninja Theory's go-to guy for a long time because he was the mocap king.
I think it was a massive failure as well, wasn't it? They lost a load of money on it. Enslaved
was, I mean, they kind of. It's weird how Ninja Theory have kind of kept going and gotten bigger and bigger because they kind of had a string of failures, like because Heavenly Sword wasn't super well received, and then Enslaved wasn't super well received. It was received well critically, but not commercially.
Yeah.
And then DMC. Like the interesting thing is, like I like DMC. I think DMC is a good game, but it was the fan backlash.
Oh, the first one with the new guy.
Yeah. When they'd made a lot of mistakes in the announcement phase of that one. Like that was what it was. Because I was in Japan, I was in Tokyo Game Show when they showed it off, and you could hear a pin drop in the auditorium. It was just like shock. It was like,
who the fuck is this guy?
Who is this Robert Pattinson lookalike fuck with a Union Jack on his arm? What the fuck are we looking at? And I was the most skeptical of it, and I ended up actually really enjoying it. But I am glad that Capcom decided to continue on with the series themselves.
Pull it back.
Enslaved and
Body Harvest on the N64.
I remember us talking about that for a little bit. Yeah.
GTA meets Starship Troopers. Absolutely love that.
Great game.
And the last one was State of Emergency on PlayStation 2.
Interesting. I that is a blast from the past, man. Like, and that was just Rockstar's, hey, everybody says our games make you kill people, so here's a game where you just run around and kill people.
It was basically like on the GTA 3 engine, and you just looted and rioted. It was mad. That wouldn't fly nowadays.
That was back when Rockstar really kind of were eating up the controversy of their games. Like they were like, here's State of Emergency, here's Manhunt, here's anything that will offend people. Like, let's just release it. And they've kind of, as much as I love like GTA 5 and stuff, I don't know, I kind of feel like in some ways they've gotten a bit soft in terms of like, and I think they even said that, didn't they, about GTA 6, that they were like, our fear with a GTA 6 is that like, how could you do anything that wouldn't like crazy offend people nowadays?
Do it anyway.
It's the solution right there.
Now it's like, they're like Rockstar now, like, want to see GTA 6? Here's some more GTA 5. Here's some more GTA 5. Here's some more GTA 5.
You'll appreciate. You ever see that meme that's like, on PS2 we had 3 GTAs across one console, and then on GTA 5 we've had 1 GTA across 3 consoles.
Yeah,
I hate that it's so accurate though.
I know, so stupid. Like,
look at even GTA 4, right? Even GTA 4, we at least got 2 banging DLCs for it, like 2 really good story-driven DLCs. GTA 5, there's just like, here's more heists. Here's another heist.
They're just making too much money off it online. That's the problem.
Exactly. Brian, we've kind of talked a lot about games and stuff. I am going to turn this at this point more onto you as a content creator and as somebody that I deeply admire, I deeply look up to. I love what you do. I don't always, I think I've said this to you before, but I don't always get a chance to like watch your videos as they release. But I kind of build up bank days where I'll end up watching a bunch of them in one day and just like enjoying them. But for the uninitiated, I guess, what is it that you do? Tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel and stuff.
My channel is all of this behind me. I collect action figures. I've been doing it since I was a child. I obviously broke for the teenage years and all that stuff. I came back to it when I was a bit older, and before lockdown and coronavirus, I started this channel and kind of did bits, pieces here and there. And then when I had no job, I said, fuck it, I'm going to do this properly now and do videos every day or every second day.
And you pump out content like nobody's business. It's admirable, man, genuinely.
But it's tough though, because action figure wise, Ireland is at the end of Europe, so everything arrives late. So when I have a video out, something has already been done 3 months ago by some lad in America. So. Yeah. But still, I don't care. I don't do it for that kind of stuff anyway.
I can empathize with that because, right, like I told you, I mean, I don't know when this video will necessarily be going out, but like Resident Evil Village just released. I don't have a team of editors that work on my stuff. So unlike Jacksepticeye or whoever else, I'm not going to get my Resident Evil Village video out 2 days after release or like a bunch of these other big YouTubers. But again, like you just said there, and I think this is the important thing to cling to, especially for anybody who does want to even get into, anything like this, any kind of content creation, is like, I also don't care. I recorded my Let's Play of Resident Evil Village because I wanted to, and I will get a kick out of looking back at it and being like, look at how I reacted to that. And it's, like you say, it's been done, it's been whatever, but like, I still think that looking to myself and then by virtue of that, I think looking to you, you still bring something to the table that nobody else does because it's you, it's your content.
Yeah.
Nobody can be you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My own brand of madness to it, like.
and like I will say, guys, that if you are like, I mean, I'm not as into the collectibles I used to be. I've kind of fallen out, like Brian said, I've kind of fallen off the wagon with it a little bit. But I since Brian started doing his, I started buying some figurines again. Like I bought some Silent Hill 2, Figmas. I bought a Mega Man figure, and I've been kind of slowly getting back into the idea of it. And so, like that, what's great is to have a friend who's putting out content that if I'm like, ooh, that new Dragon Ball figure looks unreal, I can actually see what Brian says. And trust me, the greatest thing that you need to know about Brian O Regan and his channel is that if something is shit, Brian O Regan will tell you it's shit. He will not hold back.
Like, I think as well, that's why I started it as well, because a lot of these action figure YouTubers are all on the take, so to speak, whereas they'll be getting stuff for free and they're almost afraid to criticize these companies and stuff. I don't give a shit. Like, I have to be honest. I can't be. Oh, yeah, this is fantastic, but I actually don't like it. You know what I mean?
100%. I remember back when I was a reviewer. I remember when I first started reviewing games. I did have this gnawing fear of like, oh, if I say something bad about this publisher will never send me another game again. And then I remember, I remember the exact game. It was an Adventure Time game, and you know that I'm a gigantic Adventure Time fan, right? I love Adventure Time. I have a massive Adventure Time tattoo on my leg. This game was called Adventure Time Explore the Dungeon Because I Don't Care. And it was an abomination unto earth. Like, and I was like, I don't care if they never send me anything again. There's no way I'm gonna. And then from there, things got a lot easier. From there, once I had done one, I'd pull that band-aid off of like, I don't care. I was like, okay, cool. Now we're gonna be as objective as fuck about this. But it's true. And sometimes I think to kind of go back to that as well. Sometimes I don't think that it's out of malicious intent that people do that. I do think it can be a genuine like anxiety or fear, but that's still, to be a good critic, you have to put all that aside and just be like, this is what's good about this is what's bad about this. And like that, one thing I'll always say is that your action figure reviews, even if you say there's something bad about, like if it's a good figure that has faults, you'll point that out, versus if it's just absolute shite, you know. Which is good, because again, it's not just like, oh, this is shit, throw it in the bin. It's like, yeah, it's a good figure, it's painted really well, blah, but the joints are like, you know, they're not great, or, you know, that's where the quality of the content comes in for me, I think. Like,
I think there was something recently, I can't think, you know, which one it was, but anyway, I really, really fucking loved it.
Yeah.
But like, there was like his shorts or whatever, it was all like a child had done the paint. It's all like out of the lines and everything.
Oh, no.
I was like, this just fucking ruins it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, I'm not saying that this is terrible, but why the fuck is the paint done like this?
It's little things like that, like.
But actually, and one thing I'll say is that obviously the action figures side of things is a big part of Brian's channel, but he also does Culture Cast every Sunday with Stephen Tuberty, who's another great content creator, friend of ours, or person, little degenerate. But he does Culture Cast. I always miss it because I'm always streaming on a Sunday night, but then I'll always try and catch up with it at a later stage. Usually it's about stuff like, you know, shows that are just on and stuff, and usually I'm behind. So like I didn't watch all your WandaVision one until I had like watched WandaVision and stuff like that. But again, if you're in any way into pop culture or anything like, you know, upcoming Marvel shows, Star Wars, all that stuff, like, Brian is your guy. Go to Brian. Subscribe now.
Thanks, Paddy.
No worries, man.
And also, Paddy is awesome. And if you're here already, you're already subscribed and watched him. So,
and if you're not, please hit that button. It really does.
Yeah, hit that subscribe button. Doesn't take anything out of your pocket. Do it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Look at this man. Look at this beautiful human. Honestly, Brian, thank you so much for coming on and chatting to me about this. I love when I have guests on. I love it even more when they're my mates, which luckily I think most of the date have been. But it's nice when it's just, as I say, especially when you have a history with that person, you know what they like and
sordid history.
Oh, we've been in some dark places, lads. Legitimately, really dark places.
Some with no electricity.
About 60% of them had no electricity. That's true.
Had to create our own.
Generate heat. Guys, honestly, go check out Brian. Thank you so much. Check out Tenchu, Stealth Assassins on the PS1. It will just absolutely fuck you up. And
Sony, remaster that shit.
This is the perfect way to end this. Look, Brian, we know that hashtag campaigns work nowadays, right? So, hashtag bring Tenchu back. Ghost of Tenchu. Sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Tenchu.
They can start with Ricky Maru just slitting the guy from Ghost of Tsushima's throat because he has no personality.
Poor Jane, man. I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but poor Jane. Anyhow, thank you so much, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, I will say what I always say at the end of everything, which is let's survive together and peace out. Thanks again, Brian.